The night it all began, I never believed in ghosts. I never believed in curses, demons, or the things that hide in the dark. To me, horror belonged in movies, in books, in other people's stories, but never in mine. That night changed everything. It was late past midnight when I finally got home. The rain had been falling all evening, soaking the streets, making the air smell like wet soil and rust. My jacket was dripping as I unlocked the old wooden door of my house. The place wasn't new. I de-rented it a few weeks ago because it was cheap and close to work. The landlord had warned me it had a bit of history, but I didn't care. I wasn't looking for history. I was looking for 4 walls and a roof. I pushed the door open, and the hinges groaned like they hadn't been used in years. The hallway stretched before me, narrow and dimly lit. My shoes squished against the wooden floor, leaving little wet footprints behind me. Everything smelled faintly of mildew, like the house had been closed off for too long. Remember shivering not from the cold, but from something else. Something I couldn't explain. As I walked to the living room, I heard it. A whisper. At first I thought it was the wind sliding through cracks in the old house. But then it came again softer, clearer, like a voice. I froze, standing in the middle of the room, listening. My heart pounded in my ears, drowning out everything else. Leave. I swear I heard that word. Just one. Single syllable carried on a breath that wasn't mine. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe I was just tired. Maybe the rain outside was playing tricks with the acoustics. I turned on the light, but the bulb flickered and died with a faint pop. Great, just great. I muttered under my breath and went upstairs, planning to grab a towel, dry off, and forget about it. But the whisper followed me. Every creak of the stairs seemed louder than usual. Every shadow seemed longer. The air felt heavier, thicker, like I was walking underwater. By the time I reached my bedroom, I was breathing harder than I should have been. The room was exactly how I'd left it, bed unmade. A stack of books on the nightstand, my phone charger tangled on the floor. Normal to normal. I shut the door behind me, and that's when I noticed it. The mirror. It was an old, full-length mirror that came with the house, standing in the corner near the window. I covered it with a bedsheet the day I moved in, because it creeped me out. The glass was cracked down the middle, like a scar splitting it in two. But now, the sheet was gone. I stood there, staring. I could see my own reflection. Pale, wet, tired, but something was wrong. My reflection was smiling. I wasn't. My lips were pressed tight, my face tense, but in the glass I was grinning. A wide, stretched, unnatural grin. My stomach dropped. I took a step back, my hands shaking, and the reflection didn't move. It kept smiling. That's when I heard the whisper again. Louder this time, right behind me. Leave. I spun around, but no one was there. It's just the empty room, the sound of the rain hammering the window, and my reflection still smiling at me from the cracked glass. I don't remember how long I stood frozen. A minute, an hour, it felt endless. Eventually, I ripped the sheet off the bed and threw it back over the mirror, not daring to look again. That night I didn't sleep. Every sound in the house felt amplified, the drip of water in the bathroom sink, the groan of wood as it settled, even my own breathing. My heart didn't slow down. My skin prickled like invisible eyes were watching me, and maybe they were. Because deep in the silence, just before dawn, I heard something that made my blood run cold. The whisper again, but this time, it wasn't telling me to leave. It was laughing. Whispers in the walls. I barely closed my eyes that night. By the time the sun crawled through the curtains, my body was shaking with exhaustion, but my mind wouldn't let me rest. Every creak in the house felt alive. Every shadow felt like it was moving when I wasn't looking. Still, I told myself it was just in my head. I was tired. I was imagining things. That's all. But the thing about fear is, it doesn't need proof. It feeds on doubt. The day passed slowly. I went to work, tried to focus, tried to pretend nothing was wrong. But the moment I returned home, the weight of the house pressed down on me again. The air inside was stale, like it hadn't been touched by sunlight in years. I cooked dinner in silence. Every so often, I thought I heard something faint in the walls, scratching, like nails dragging across wood. Mice, I thought. Old house, nothing unusual. But then the scratching changed, became rhythmic, deliberate, not the sound of an animal scurrying. It was tapping, tap, 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 3 slow knocks from somewhere inside the wall. I froze, the fork halfway to my mouth. My ears strained, waiting for it to repeat. And it did. Tap, tap, tap. Right behind me, just above the baseboard. I dropped my fork and pressed my hand to the wall. The wood was cold, almost icy, and the sound stopped instantly. Silence. I pulled my hand away, and that's when I heard it again. Not tapping this time, voice whispering. I couldn't make out the words at first. It was like a radio between stations. Soft, broken, hissing. I pressed my ear closer, and the whisper sharpened, clearer, slipping through the wood. I don't... Look, I stumbled back, my chair screeching against the floor, my breath caught in my throat. Who was that? How could there be a voice inside the wall? I didn't stay in the kitchen after that. I bolted upstairs, locking myself in my room like a coward. The sheet still hung over the mirror, but I didn't dare look at it. I couldn't. Hours passed. The house seemed to breathe around me, shifting, groaning, whispering when I tried to convince myself I was safe. At some point, I must have dozed off because the next thing I remember was waking to the sound of footsteps. Not mine. They were slow, heavy, dragging across the floor downstairs. My heart pounded against my ribs so hard, I thought it would burst. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand, fumbling to call anyone. But the screen wouldn't turn on dead, even though I had charged it that morning. The footsteps grew louder, moving from the living room to the hallway, toward the stairs. I held my breath, straining to hear. Each creak of the step made my stomach twist tighter. 1 step, 2 steps, 3. The sound stopped halfway up. Silence filled the house again, thick and suffocating. I clutched the edge of my blanket, not daring to move. My eyes were glued to the gap beneath the bedroom door, waiting to see shadows pass. Minutes ticked by. Nothing. I told myself I was imagining it, that maybe the old house shifted with the wind. Maybe the wood groaned under its own weight. Anything was better than the truth clawing at the back of my mind. Finally, I forced myself to creep to the door. My hands shook as I reached for the knob. Slowly, I cracked it open, peeking into the hallway. Empty. The stairs were empty too. No one was there. Relief flooded through me so fast my knees almost gave out. I leaned against the doorframe, exhaling shakily. That's when I heard it. From inside the wall right next to my ear, a whisper, clear, cold, unmistakable. You shouldn't have looked. The face in the window, I didn't sleep again that night. Every whisper, every creak, every sigh of the old house made my skin crawl. By morning, my eyes were bloodshot, and I felt like my bones had turned to glass, fragile, ready to crack with the slightest touch. I told myself I needed air. Fresh air, sunlight, something to prove I wasn't losing my mind. So I spent most of the day outside, wandering aimlessly through the neighborhood, sitting in a small park a few blocks away, trying to convince myself that what I'd been hearing was stress. Exhaustion. Nothing more. And for a while it worked. Being around people, hearing voices that weren't disembodied whispers, seeing children play and dogs bark, it grounded me. By the time I headed back home, the sun was already sinking, painting the sky a bruised purple. But the moment I saw the house again, dread coiled tight in my stomach. Its broken shutters and crooked chimney looked less like a home and more like a mouth, waiting to swallow me whole. Still, I forced myself inside. I had to. It was my house now, and running away wouldn't solve anything. The air inside was colder than outside, like I'd stepped into a basement instead of my own living room. I shut the door quickly, trying to shake off the unease. That night, I sat at the desk in my room with a notebook, determined to write everything down, the whispers, the tapping, the footsteps. If I could see it on paper, maybe it would make sense. Maybe it would stop feeling so unreal. But then it happened. As I sat there scribbling, I felt it. The prickling sensation of being watched. You know when someone's eyes are on you, even if they're across the room? It's that heavy awareness that makes your skin crawl. I felt it from the window. Slowly, my hand froze over the page. I didn't want to look. Every instinct screamed at me not to, but my eyes betrayed me. I glanced at the glass, and there it was. A face, pale, hollow-eyed, its skin stretched too tightly, like paper over bone. The mouth hung open in a silent scream, lips torn at the corners. It was pressed against the outside of the window, staring straight at me. My heart stopped. The notebook slipped from my hand and hit the floor. For a moment, I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. I just sat there, paralyzed, staring back at it. Then it smiled. A jagged, broken smile that looked almost identical to the one I'd seen in the mirror. I stumbled out of the chair so fast it toppled behind me. My hands scrambled for anything to defend myself with, but what could I possibly use against? That, when I looked back, the window was empty. Just glass, just the reflection of my terrified face staring back. But the glass was wrong. There were handprints. Faint, smudged, pressed against the inside of the glass. It's not the outside, inside. I backed away, my chest heaving. No, that wasn't possible. I would have seen it, someone couldn't have gotten in. The window was locked. I checked it myself when I moved in, but the prints were there. Long, thin fingers smeared across the glass, like someone had been leaning against it, watching me. And then I heard the whisper again, not from the walls this time. From behind me. Right behind me, let me in. I spun around, but the room was empty. The shadows stretched across the corners, silent and still. I pressed myself against the wall, clutching my chest, my breath coming in sharp, shallow bursts. My whole body trembled, my knees threatening to give way. That was the first night I admitted the truth to myself. This wasn't just an old house. It wasn't just stress or exhaustion. Something was here with me. It wanted more than just a whisper. It wanted me. The shadows that followed me after that night with the face in the window, I knew something was wrong with the house. Terribly, deeply wrong. And yet I stayed. Fear traps you. It convinces you that leaving won't help, that whatever is haunting you will follow no matter where you go. And part of me wanted answers. But answers never came, only terror. It began with the shadows. Walking down the hallway, I saw movement on the wall, not my shadow. This one was taller, thinner, its head bent at a grotesque angle. When I stopped, it stopped. When I moved, it didn't. Its head tilted farther until it looked like the neck should have snapped, then gone. The shadows were alive. Soon, they were everywhere. Lingering in corners, standing in doorways, watching. Even in daylight, I saw them, dark stains that didn't belong. I tried everything. Lights on, curtains open, lamps burning until the bulbs burst. Nothing worked. Because it wasn't darkness they lived in. It was the house.
Whoa.
One evening I heard it tap, tap, tap inside the walls, in rhythm with my heartbeat. Then the shadow appeared. It crawled upward from the floor, limbs bending wrong, face inches from mine, and it whispered, "You can't hide," until I saw it. Beneath a streetlight stood a shadow, not cast by anything, just watching. I blinked. It was closer. Each blink dragged it nearer until it stood only feet away, tall and broken, its head twisted at that awful angle. I squeezed my eyes shut. When I opened them, it was gone. But the grass beneath me was darker, stained, as if it had been there all along. The locked room upstairs, after the shadows followed me to the park, I knew I wasn't safe anywhere. Not outside, not inside, not even in my own head. But the house still had secrets, could feel it. Every corner, every wall seemed to hum with something I couldn't see, and the worst of it came from upstairs. There was one door I had never opened. From the moment I moved in, it had been locked. At first I thought nothing of it. Told houses often had sealed rooms or doors that didn't lead anywhere. But as the days passed, I realized something about that door wasn't right. Whenever I walked past it, the air grew colder. The whispers grew louder. The shadows seemed to gather around it like flies around a corpse. And sometimes, I thought I heard something behind it. It's not whispers, it's not tapping. Breathing. At night, lying in bed, I could hear it through the floorboards. Slow, steady inhales, as if someone was standing right behind the locked door, waiting. I tried to ignore it, but the more I resisted, the more it consumed me. Curiosity turned into obsession. What was behind that door? Why was it locked? What was my landlord hiding? One evening I snapped. I grabbed a screwdriver from the kitchen drawer and marched upstairs. My hand shook as I jammed it into the keyhole, twisting, prying, forcing the lock to give. The metal scraped, the wood splintered, and with a final sharp crack, the door swung open. The smell hit me first. Rot, damp, something old and foul that burned my throat. I gagged, covering my mouth, forcing myself to step inside. The room was pitch black, the windows boarded shut. Dust floated thick in the air, swirling in the beam of my flashlight. And then I saw them. Symbols, carved into the walls, etched deep into the wood, covering every inch of the room. Circles, crosses, jagged shapes I didn't recognize. Some looked burned in, others scratched as if with fingernails. In the center of the floor sat a chair, wooden, stained. The straps tied to its arms and legs were frayed, but the leather still looked stiff with age. I stepped closer, my flashlight trembling in my hand. The stains on the chair, they weren't just old wood, they were darker, thicker. The unmistakable color of dried blood. My stomach twisted. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over something on the floor. A diary. Its cover was torn, its pages warped with moisture. I picked it up with shaking hands and flipped it open. The handwriting inside was jagged, frantic. It won't stop whispering. It knows my name. The shadows move when I sleep. I can't leave. It won't let me. The entries grew more desperate, the words slanting into madness. The last page stopped me cold. I locked it in the mirror. If it gets out, God help us all. My hands went numb. The diary slipped from my grip and hit the floor with a dull thud. The mirror, the cracked full-length mirror in my bedroom, it's the one that smiled back at me. Suddenly the air shifted. As the temperature plummeted, my breath coming out in white puffs. From the corner of the room, a shadow peeled itself from the wall. Tall and crooked, its head tilted the way I'd seen before. I stumbled back, nearly falling against the doorway. The whisper filled the room, rising in volume until it roared in my skull. You opened the door. The shadow lunged. I slammed the door shut, throwing my entire weight against it, the wood rattling under something pounding from the other side. The lock was broken now, I couldn't seal it again. But worse than the pounding was the laughter, low, hollow, coming from the room and the mirror upstairs. When the dead spoke my name, I couldn't get the diary's words out of my head. I locked it in the mirror. Those words looped in my mind like a curse. Every time I passed my bedroom, I felt the weight of that cracked mirror pressing against me, as if it were aware of what I now knew, as if it was waiting. I avoided the room as much as I could, but the house didn't let me escape. Every whisper, every creak, every shadow seemed to pull me back upstairs, dragging me toward the mirror. And then it began saying my name. The first time it happened, I was in the kitchen. The lights were on, the radio played faintly in the background, and for a brief moment, I felt almost normal. Then I heard it, soft, low, right in my ear. Hamid. I froze, the knife in my hand slipping against the cutting board. My name. It wasn't a whisper anymore, not some broken sound hidden in the walls. It was my name. I spun around. Nothing. My chest heaved as I backed into the corner of the kitchen, my eyes darting around the room. The shadows stretched along the walls, twitching unnaturally like they were breathing. Then it came again. Hamid. This time, from upstairs. From my room, the mirror. My legs felt like stone, but some sick compulsion drove me forward. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step groaning beneath my weight. The air grew colder the closer I came to the door. My breath turned white. When I reached the top, the bedroom door was open. I swear I hadn't left it that way. The sheet over the mirror was gone. The cracked glass reflected the room in fragments like pieces of a broken puzzle. And there, standing in the reflection, was me. But it wasn't me. Its eyes were black hollows, its skin stretched tight over its face. And it was smiling that same horrible smile, too wide, too sharp. Slowly, its lips moved. Hamid. My blood turned to ice. I stumbled back, my shoulders slamming into the doorframe. The reflection tilted its head, just like the shadows had, the crack in the glass splitting its face in two. Then its hands pressed against the inside of the mirror. I could see the glass bulge outward, groaning as if it would shatter. My heart pounded so hard, I thought it would burst. No, 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 I whispered. backing away. But it only pressed harder. And then, in a voice that wasn't a whisper anymore, but a scream that shook the walls, it called my name again. Hamid. The mirror exploded. Shards of glass rained across the room, slicing my arms, my face, my hands. I threw myself to the floor, covering my head, the sound deafening, the air thick with dust and cold. When the noise stopped, I lifted my head slowly. The mirror was gone. Nothing but shards glittering across the floor, but the reflection wasn't gone. It was standing in the room, tall, twisted, wearing my face. Its grin stretched from ear to ear, blood dripping from the corners of its mouth. Moment neither of us moved. Then it whispered again, its voice like knives tearing through my skull. You let me out. I scrambled backward, cutting my hands on the shards, my blood smearing across the floor. The thing took one step toward me, and the shadows followed, crawling along the walls, closing in from every side. I bolted from the room, slamming the door behind me, even though I knew it wouldn't help. My chest heaved, my lungs clawing for air. But the house was alive now. The walls trembled, the floorboards cracked, the whispers rose into screams, and over it all, one voice repeated my name, over and over, from every corner, every shadow, every shard of glass that still glittered on the floor. Hamid. 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 I wasn't alone anymore. The dead knew my name, and they weren't going to stop. The thing that wore my skin, after the mirror shattered, nothing in the house was the same. The air was colder, heavier, as though the walls themselves were holding their breath. The whispers didn't hide anymore, they screamed. The shadows didn't creep anymore, they stood tall, bold, stretching long fingers toward me whenever I dared to look away. But the worst was, the thing that looked like me. It followed me now. I saw it in every reflection. Not just the shards of glass on my bedroom floor, but in the windows, in the screen of my blackened phone, in puddles on the street. It was me but wrong. Its eyes were black pits. Its mouth was too wide. Its movements were jerky, like a marionette pulled by tangled strings. And each time I saw it, the grin was wider, hungrier. One night I woke to the sound of my own voice. Not in my head, not in a dream. My own voice, coming from downstairs. It was humming. I froze, every muscle in my body locked tight. I strained my ears, my heart hammering in my chest. The tune was familiar because it was mine, a song I used to hum when I was nervous. But I wasn't humming. Slowly, I slid out of bed, my feet silent against the floorboards. The house groaned around me as I crept down the stairs, each step threatening to betray me. The humming grew louder, clearer, and then I saw it, sitting in my chair at the kitchen table. Me, its back was to me, shoulders hunched, head tilted slightly to the side. I could see the way its hair fell, the shape of its hands resting on the table, identical to mine. But its skin was peeling. Loose, hanging in strips, like it had been stitched together wrong. I wanted to run. I should have run. But my voice, my real voice, betrayed me. Who are you? The humming stopped. Slowly its head turned, bone cracking with the motion, until its face came into view. My face, but not mine. The grin split wider, the skin tearing at the corners of its mouth, blood oozing down its chin. Its black eyes locked on mine, unblinking. I'm you, it whispered. The sound of my own voice, twisted, broken, wrong, shook me to my core. No, I whispered back, my legs trembling. It stood, every movement stiff, unnatural, like bones grinding against each other. It took one step toward me, then another, its bare feet dragging across the floor. You let me out, it said, grinning wider. And now I can wear you. I stumbled back, my hands groping for anything I could use as a weapon. My fingers closed around a shard of glass on the counter, still smeared with my own dried blood. The thing lunged. I slashed at it wildly, the glass tearing into its shoulder. Black ooze sprayed across the floor, thick and reeking like rot. But it didn't scream, it laughed. The sound was unbearable, my own laugh, but hollow, echoing as though it came from 1,000 throats. It grabbed my wrist, its grip ice cold, stronger than anything human. I tried to pull away, but it leaned close, its breath rancid against my ear. Give me your skin, it whispered. You don't need it anymore, I screamed, wrenching free, slicing again. This time across its face. The glass cut deep, but instead of falling, instead of weakening, it only laughed louder. Its face peeled open like paper, revealing a darker void beneath. No bone, no flesh, just emptiness. I bolted, running for the stairs, stumbling, tripping, clawing at the banister to pull myself up. Behind me, I heard its feet dragging, its voice calling after me in that broken echo. Hamid, Hamid. I slammed my bedroom door shut, shoving the dresser against it, my body shaking uncontrollably. The whispers swarmed around me, rising into a chorus of voices all mine, all screaming, all laughing. And then, from the other side of the door, I heard it, scraping. Long, slow scraping like fingernails dragging across wood. And my own voice, sweet and calm, saying, "Don't fight me. I just want to wear you. Escape." Or so I thought. The scraping at my door went on for hours. Sometimes soft, sometimes violent, like claws trying to tear through the wood. I pressed myself against the wall, clutching the shard of glass, my body trembling. The whispers never stopped. They grew louder, overlapping, my own voice repeating in different tones, pleading, mocking, laughing. By dawn, silence finally fell. I didn't dare move for a long time. But when the sun's light finally bled through the cracks in the curtains, I forced myself to act. I couldn't stay here anymore. If I did, it would take me. I knew it. I shoved the dresser aside and opened the door slowly. The hallway was empty. The walls were scarred with deep gouges where the thing had clawed. The wood splintered and blackened like it had burned. But it was gone. For now, I didn't waste time. I grabbed what I could, my wallet, my keys, my jacket. I didn't care about anything else. I had to get out. The house seemed to groan as I moved, the floorboards creaking like a warning. The air grew colder with every step toward the door. My breath fogged in the sunlight streaming through the windows, and for one horrifying moment, I saw it. My breath. And another breath. Beside me, I bolted. I tore the front door open, sunlight blinding me as I stumbled onto the street. For the first time in weeks, I felt hope. The cold, heavy weight of the house lifted the further I ran. By the time I reached my car, my chest was heaving, my legs weak, but I was alive. I fumbled with the keys, nearly dropping them, before finally starting the engine. The car roared to life, and I sped away, not daring to look back. The further I drove, the lighter I felt. Houses, trees, fields blurred past me. The whispers didn't follow, shadows didn't move. For the first time, silence wrapped around me like a blessing. I drove for hours. I didn't know where I was going. I just wanted to be anywhere but there. Eventually, I found a small motel off the highway. Faded sign, peeling paint, but it was far, and that was enough. Inside the room, I locked the door, shut the curtains, and collapsed onto the bed. For the first time in what felt like forever, I slept. When I woke, it was night. The clock on the nightstand blinked to 13 a.m. I sat up slowly, my body aching, but relief washed over me. I was safe. At least that's what I thought. I turned toward the bathroom mirror and froze. In the glass, I saw myself sitting on the bed, my pale face, my tired eyes, my trembling hands. But my reflection wasn't sitting the same way I was. It was smiling. The smile stretched wider, wider, until the skin around its mouth tore open, blood dripping down its chin. Its black eyes locked on mine, unblinking, and then it whispered, "Hamid, you can't escape." I stumbled back, crashing into the nightstand, sending the lamp to the floor. My heart hammered in my chest as I stared at the mirror, waiting for it to shatter, waiting for it to crawl out like before. But it didn't. It just sat there, smiling, waiting. And in that moment, I understood. It didn't matter where I went. It didn't matter how far I ran. I had let it out, and it wasn't bound to that house anymore. It was bound to me. Forever. The motel room grew colder. The shadows lengthened. And in the silence, I heard it again, my own voice, whispering from the walls, the ceiling, the floor, laughing. I wasn't alone. I would never be alone again. And the worst part, the face in the mirror wasn't just smiling anymore. it was moving closer. And that was my story, or at least what I can tell you. Because the truth is, it never really ended. I thought I could escape. I thought sunlight, distance, or even running until my body collapsed would save me. But when you carry something like this inside you, when it clings to your soul like a parasite, there's no escape. Even now as I speak these words, I feel it, watching, listening, smiling. Maybe you saw it too, maybe between the words, in the spaces where silence lingered just a little too long. Maybe it's already noticed you. After all, that's how it spreads. Not through touch, not through blood, but through awareness, through listening, through watching. So if you've stayed with me until the very end, I need to warn you. The story doesn't belong to me anymore. It belongs to you now. Tonight, when the lights go out, don't trust the silence. Don't trust your reflection. And whatever you do, if you hear your own voice whispering back at you from the dark, do not answer. Because once you do, it knows your name. But hey, if you enjoyed this story and you want more nightmares that make your heart race and your skin crawl, then don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another chilling tale. Your support means everything. It keeps these stories alive, and it helps me bring you darker, deeper, and scarier horrors every single week. Drop a comment below and tell me, what part of this story scared you the most? And do you believe things like this could really happen? I'll be reading your comments, maybe even while something is watching from the shadows behind me. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and remember, some stories end when you close the book. This one doesn't. It follows you home. Sleep well, if you can.